So now let's start about threading concept in Java. So we will start designing threads in Java. But before starting the coding part, I want to tell you one point. Whatever we have already covered as a part of Java programming, like constructor, super keyword, interface, and inheritance, today I am going to apply them all in this thread programming part. So now you will find out a very good application of interface, a very good application of inheritance, and also another good application of constructor in Java. So basically this thread creation is a combination of everything. So in the previous session, I was talking about a thread, and we have overall idea about this thread. That is, a thread is a single sequential flow of execution of task of a process. And apart from this, there can be more than one thread inside a process. Each thread of the same process makes use of a separate program counter and a stack of activation records and control blocks. Thread is often referred to as lightweight process due to this usage. So anyways, these are the basic thing that we have covered so far. But the first question that comes in our mind, that is, what is the real life application of thread? See, I'm starting this class from a classical example of thread. See, we know that a process may have several threads inside it. So the process can be split down into so many threads. So now I'm giving you an example. In a browser, many tabs can be viewed as a thread. So whenever we are using many tabs in a particular browser, you can consider this as a thread. This is one real life example. One more example, MS Word also uses many threads. Say one thread for formatting text, one thread for processing input from another thread, something like this. So we can say that whenever we are accessing many tabs in a browser, it is an application of multithreading. Whenever MS Word uses multithreading, it can format text, it can process input. So these are the classical example of threads that we are using on regular basis, right? So here we have to understand how to create threads in Java. So this is the first question that will be asked in your interview, that is how to create thread in Java. So there will be two answers. Means thread creation will not follow a single mechanism. Thread creation can be done in two ways. First, you can create a thread by extending a thread class. See here, I am talking about a superclass thread which is already existing. We are going to design a thread extending this superclass thread. So this is how we can create the thread. Since I'm talking about already existing thread class, so this T is in caps. So the one way is we can create a thread in Java by extending a thread class, or there is another alternative way. That is, we can create a thread in Java by implementing runnable interface. So today we are going to perform this two kinds of coding of thread creation in Java. So obviously whenever we perform this kind of coding in Java, then the first question that should come in your mind, which approach to follow and which approach is applicable for which kind of application. So I will talk about it later on, but you have to remember one point. Whenever we are going to create a thread in Java using this two approach, you can find out that these are the classical implementation or classical application of inheritance and application of interface in Java. So in the package section, I have already defined that in Java, always we have some classes which are pre-existing. Also, we have some interfaces which are pre-existing. So we can use them either by using extends keyword, or else we can use any interface using implements keyword. So today we are going to do this kind of activity. But before that, while performing thread creation, also I will combine one extra knowledge with this that we have covered so far, that is how to create a constructor in Java, and also how to call a superclasses constructor sitting at subclass. I have already explained this super keyword. So now we will combine all this knowledge together in order to create threads in Java, right? So first, I will try to implement thread using extends keyword. Now, before starting the coding part, I will tell you that this class thread, whatever I'm going to use, this class thread is already defined. And this class thread has two constructors inside it. One is known as thread constructor. Try to remember this point. Whenever we are going to define any constructor, the name of the constructor will be same as the class name in which it belongs to. So the class name is thread, therefore the constructor name is also thread, right? Only the syntax of the constructor resembles with the method. So this thread class will have two constructor. One is thread constructor with no parameter, and another one is a thread constructor with string parameter. Means inside this thread you have, say, t name. You have one parameter known as t name, and data type of this parameter is of type string. So in one word, whenever you are going to create thread in Java using extending the thread class, you have to remember one point. This thread class is already existing, and these are the two constructor that exist inside this thread class. And we are going to use all these constructors or any one of the constructor. So let's start the coding part. I'm going to design thread in Java by extending thread class. See how to design it. So the first thing is, the thread class superclass is already there. How we can use one particular superclass which is already defined? In applet we have covered this section. So what we will do, we will define a subclass, say new thread, and this subclass will extends which one? This superclass. So this is the first step that we are going to use. So we are going to create a thread by extending the superclass thread. Now the next part. So whenever this part is over, then we have to define one constructor. Now here the question is, where I am going to define the constructor? This constructor is a part of this subclass. So inside this subclass, I am going to define its constructor. So the name of the constructor will be same as the class name. And here I am going to design one constructor with no parameter. So the constructor is ready to use. Now here, since we are going to explore or extend the superclass thread, and I have already explained that this thread class has two constructor inside it. So here I am going to use one of the constructor inside this thread class. So now here what I am going to do, here I am going to use the constructor of the thread class. So how to use it? So we know the mechanism. Whenever we are inside the subclasses constructor, then sitting in the subclasses constructor, how we can call the superclasses constructor. The mechanism is known as using super keyword. So here if I write super keyword with this brackets, it means I am going to call the super classes constructor. And which constructor I am going to call? Because in the thread class we have two constructor. One is without parameter, one is with parameter. So here I am going to call the constructor which has no parameter, because here I haven't passed any of the parameter. So here why I have written this super keyword? The super keyword is used to invoke or is used to call the superclasses constructor, that is the thread constructor with no parameter, sitting at the subclass. So this is the step that we have to follow, right? Now what we have to do? So inside this constructors, we have to invoke one thing. Why this constructor is created? So inside this subclasses constructor, the first step is you have to call the superclasses constructor. Then what you have to do, you have to invoke another method, which is a predefined method. And that method is known as start method. Now why this start method is used? This start method is used in order to start a thread. So this is the next step that you have to perform inside the subclasses constructor, right? So these are the two steps. So for the sake of programming, one thing you can do, you can write any print statement over here also. That is, you can write say new thread is created. Now after defining the constructor, end the constructor over here. Then we have to define or we have to use one method. Like applet, in the applet we have a method called paint. Inside the paint method, what we will do? We will draw the object, like draw string, draw rectangle, draw oval. So paint method can be invoked repeated number of times in order to draw some object. Now here, why we are defining a thread? Because we want our threads should perform something. Means whichever task we want to employ for a thread, we have to write that task inside a thread. Say I want to do some animation activity. So where should I write that animation activity? Or say I want to write one method, or I want to write one looping activity or some pattern designing activity, and I want a thread should perform that activity. So what is the intention of defining thread in Java? Thread is always used to perform some task. Now, how a thread should perform a task? So, whatever task you want to assign to the thread, you have to write that task part into a method which is known as run method, just like a paint method. So, since run is a predefined method, so you have to write public void run, because this run method will be used by the programmer and the return type of the run method is already defined as void. So the syntax of the run method is public void run. So for invoking a thread, you have to invoke one start method, and now to assign a task to a thread, you have to call a run method or you have to define a run method. So inside the run method, whatever activity you want to perform, you can write it over here. Say you want to create a thread for finding any prime number within a range 1 to 100, or you want to perform some animation, whatever task you want to perform, write it over here. Say the simplest task is, say I want to write one for loop. Say, so this is the task, say I want to perform inside the thread, and inside the for loop I will just print the value of I, means I want to print value of I 10 number of times. System. So here I want to create a thread, say new thread, and say I want to print the value of I. So how can I print the value of I plus I? Done. So this is the activity. So here you can incorporate any activity. So here my point is, whatever activity you want to perform using this thread, write it here. So this is all about run method. Now try to understand, in Java, whatever thread you are defining, it is a thread defined by the programmer. Now you have the concept of main thread in Java. So what is the difference between main thread and user defined thread and kernel thread? I will tell you. But one thing you have to remember, defining a single thread is not beneficial. I have explained in the previous session. Always we have to define more than one thread in order to achieve the concept of multi-threading. So now what I will do, I'm going to define the main thread also. So then we will have more than one thread. So now after this means we are going to start the main class. So here what we have to do, here we have to invoke the main thread. So main thread is already defined in Java. I have to just invoke it. So how to invoke the main thread? We know that whenever we are writing the main class, the next step will be, after writing this line, the immediately next step that I have to write is we have to create one object. So here we will explore the concept of anonymous object. Means instead of writing this thing, so what I will do, I will explore the concept of anonymous object. Means I'm not going to write this one. So why I'm doing this? So whenever I'm just writing new and then name of the subclass, it will invoke, means it will execute the constructor of the new thread class. So in order to invoke this constructor, we have to call, or we have to take the concept of anonymous object. So here why I'm writing this, this will help us to call the constructor of the subclass, which is known as new thread, right? So now later what we can do, then we can write the piece of code that we want that our main thread should perform, right? So this is the task we have assigned that we want our new thread should perform, and here I am assigning one task that we want that our main thread should do. So say I'm just writing the same thing. So I'm just printing I want to 10, and here I'm just writing this is the task for the main thread. So this I is printed by the main thread, and say this I is printed by the thread, new thread that is created previously. So now this is the basic thread creation process in case of Java, right? So what are the steps? First, you have to create one subclass with any name, but this name should be fixed. This is the name of the superclass. Then you have to create one constructor of this class, subclass, and within the constructor you have two tasks. First, you have to call the superclasses constructor using super keyword, and among two constructor I am calling the no parameterized constructor, and then you have to start the thread by invoking the start method. So it is a predefined method. And then you have to write the run method. This run method is responsible for performing the task which you want to perform that this thread should do. Now we have to define more than one thread. So this is one kind of thread, and then after public static void main, if you use anonymous object, so what will happen? You can call this constructor, which one you have already created. And afterwards, whatever piece of code you will write, this is the responsibility of the main thread in Java to invoke this piece of code. So now you have one question, that is what is main thread and how it is executing. I will tell you. So this is the basic structure of thread creation in Java. So let me execute this code first. See the output of this thread. So I'm just executing it again. Now try to understand the output first. See, in the first case, see the output here. Here first new thread means all the new thread that I have created, it is printing the value of I from 0 to 9. And then the main thread comes into the action. So then the main thread takes the responsibility of printing the value of I from 0 to 9 10 times. Now whenever I am executing this code for the second time, see what happens. I am getting the output in a jumbled up manner. Means 0 to 5 main thread is executing, then due to some unknown reason, then we have the new thread again, then again the main thread, then again the new thread, then again main thread. So this is how something is executing. So whenever I am executing this code repeated number of times, what happens, each time I am getting different output. And also sometimes I am getting jumbled up output, sometimes I am getting a proper synchronized output. So defining a thread code is not enough. I mean, designing a thread code is not enough. Also we have to explain the output related to this thread code. So this is one of the most difficult part that I'm going to explain, that why this situation arises, why I am getting different outputs for different executions. Means whenever I'm executing this code in repeated times, I'm getting different output. Why? So from here, we have to understand the concept of operating system again. So I'm just going back to the explanation part. Now see, we have observed that outputs generated by the main thread and the new thread appear jumbled up or mixed manner. So what is the reason? See, this is because both are executing concurrently. So in the previous session, I have explained that whenever we have a process, say P1, inside this process, say we have two threads T1 and T2. So this T1 and T2 will execute parallelly or concurrently. Now can I prove it? Yes. By visualizing this kind of jumbled up output, one can say that these two threads are executing concurrently or in parallel. Why? I will tell you. So this is the first point. Now the second point is very much important. So here concurrent execution means whenever I am talking about concurrent or parallel execution of threads, you have to understand one point, that it means all these threads are basically executing in a time sliced manner, or they are executing in a time slice environment. And one more point, whatever output you have seen over here, means whatever output is depicted over here, this kind of output is there because I'm executing this code in the Windows machine. If I execute this code in other OS like Linux, this kind of output, that is the jumbled up output, you will never get. So you will get something else. So this is the biggest thing that I'm going to explain. So in this output, I have explained 3 points. The reason of this jumbled up output is our threads are executing concurrently or parallelly. And second, all these threads which are running in parallel, they are exploring time sliced environment in Windows platform. Specifically, I am mentioning this. So now I have to prove it, right? So concurrent execution of the threads are proven. Now I have to explain the time slice environment in the context of Windows environment. So let's come into the discussion. Now, what is this time slice environment? So we have to understand. See, whatever output I am talking about, it is a classical example of thread scheduling. Now, the biggest question is, what is the concept of scheduling? See, methods of thread scheduling is different on different Java platform. This thing you have to keep in mind. So whatever thread scheduling mechanism we are using, it differs on different Java platform. That's why I was repeatedly mentioning that concurrently threads are executing by exploiting time slice environment in Windows platform. Now, what is the reason? See, first I will tell you why this time slicing environment is used for Windows and what is this mechanism is all about. See, apart from Windows, we have another system, we know that Solaris. So if I am talking about Solaris, a Solaris Java platform switches from one thread to another thread depending on their relative priority. So if I am executing this code in Solaris platform, they will not explode the concept of time slicing. If I execute this code in Solaris platform, then the mechanism of thread scheduling will be termed as priority basis. So I have to explain this one. So basically, what is this priority of a thread? Here, each and every thread which are executing in parallel, all threads will be assigned some sort of priority, or you can say some sort of numbers. Low priority means less important thread. And what is the significance of less important thread? Means less important thread has to wait a lot. For what? It has to wait for a task to be performed whenever a high priority thread is executing. So whenever we have more than one thread, if one thread is assigned as low priority thread and if one thread is assigned as high priority thread, then to execute this low priority thread has to wait until this high priority thread finishes its execution, right? This kind of mechanism is the mechanism which is applied for Solaris system, means Solaris Java platform. And this kind of scheduling is known as preemptive scheduling. I know that this term is very much known to you all. Preemptive scheduling. So if I execute the code in Solaris platform, it will use the concept of relative priority among the threads, and then at that point of time, the concept is known as preemptive scheduling. But let's talk about Windows. In the Windows Java implementation, I have already explained that time slicing is employed. That is, each thread is given one time slice. Instead of giving priority or numbers, now this thread will be given one time slice. Time slice means a very small amount of time. Now the threads are run in a sequential order. So in other words, each active thread is given a time slice in rotation, and this kind of scheduling which is employed by the Windows, it is known as round robin scheduling. But I know that whatever I have explained right now, this concept is not very clear. Now I am going to explain this concept with a conceptual diagram so that you could understand. So since we are working on Windows, one thing you have to keep in mind, Windows uses time sliced based scheduling, which is also known as round robin scheduling, where whenever we have multiple number of threads, each and every thread will have particular time slice assigned to it. Now I will explain this one. Now let me draw one diagram. Say, consider this situation. Say this is the CPU and say I have four threads. Say this is thread 1, this is thread 2, thread 3 and thread 4. Now what happens? See, what is time slicing? So whenever CPU is assigned to particular thread, means CPU is now executing thread number 2. It means this thread is in running state. And what about other thread? So the thread which is waiting for the CPU, they are at the waiting state. So all threads are at waiting state. So this is one situation. So now what is time slicing? Time slicing means very small amount of time. Now very small amount of time, what should be the small amount of time? It is already predefined for the operating system. So say for an example, in whichever operating system we are working, say the time slice is 1 second. So what happens? After this situation, immediately after 1 second, if the time slice is set as 1 second, what will happen? See the diagram. See, after 1 second, what will happen? Round robin scheduling means the CPU will switch from one thread to another thread immediately after 1 second. So this is the initial position of the CPU. After 1 second of time slice, this CPU will be assigned here. Here means at thread number 3. So whenever a CPU is assigned that particular thread, at that point of time, the thread will be in running state. And the thread which was executing beforehand, it will be on waiting state. And other threads, they will be still in waiting state. So this is the very basic concept of time slicing. So after 1 second, again the CPU will switch from here to here. So at that point of time, thread 4 will be at running state and all other thread will be at waiting state. So this is the mechanism how the CPU switches between one thread to another thread. So this kind of scheduling is known as time slice based scheduling. Means this is a diagram which is depicting the CPU attention which is switched to the adjacent threads in each time slice. So this is the concept, and due to this switching, you have got this kind of output. So whenever the CPU at new thread, so this thread is executing and giving you the output as new thread 0. And then say here the time slice is, I don't know, it is less than 1 nanosecond. So at this point of time, after that time slice, the CPU is switched to main thread. So at that point of time, the main thread is executing and it is giving output as 0. Again, the CPU is standing over here, means within a time the main thread is giving is as output as 1 and 2. Now you can ask me one question, okay, if the proper equal time slicing is maintained, then why after new thread we have 3 main threads? Why this kind of imparity is there? See, try to understand. Whenever you are using this diagram, you have to remember one point. When the CPU is switching from this thread to this thread, at this point of time, there may be two situations. One, whatever time, means whatever amount of time the CPU is providing to this thread, within that limit of time, either the thread can complete its execution. If not, then this thread has to wait until the CPU comes back over here, right? So it depends on what? It depends on whichever activity or whichever lines of code is enclosed within the thread. What is the activity? If these activities are too long, then whatever time is given by the CPU to this thread, it is not enough. So it will execute some part of this, then it has to wait until the CPU come back, right? Again, if this thread is performing very low number of activities, so whatever time is provided by the CPU, so it may happen that this thread completes its execution. So at this point of time, when the CPU switches from here to here, it will not wait. It will complete its execution and show you the output, right? So these are the two cases that may appear. So here, whichever time is spent by the CPU for the new thread, within that period of time only one output of I is executed, and whatever time is provided by the CPU to this main thread, within that amount of time these three lines of code will be executed. Then again it is executing the new thread. This is how the CPU is switching between two threads, new thread and main thread. And this kind of activity is known as round robin scheduling, right? And Windows always use this kind of scheduling, and this is a classical example of round robin scheduling. If round robin scheduling is not there, then always we will have the output same and there will be no question of jumbling of the output. While discussing this round robin scheduling, up to this I know that this concept is clear, that whenever I'm talking about time slicing, what is the time slice? It is not known to us, the amount of time slice. So it is already predefined in the operating system. And whenever I'm talking about this time slicing concept, it is totally the concept of Windows. But whenever I'm talking about Solaris system, I was talking about some kind of priority. So now there will be one question. What is the priority concept? So try to understand. Priority means assigning some numbers to the threads, right? So in case of preemptive scheduling, so this kind of scheduling is known as preemptive scheduling. So what happens, depending on the priority level, the system runs the thread with high priority. And a low priority thread is a running state. It may be removed from the execution in order to allow the higher priority thread to run immediately. So two cases you have to remember. If high priority thread is executing, then no other low priority thread can enter. First thing. And the second situation you have to remember, if any low priority thread is executing, if any high priority thread wish to enter, then what will happen? It will be removed and the high priority thread will get the chance for execution. This is the situation that may arise from preemptive scheduling. But the question is, what is the priority value? See, in general, 1 means highest priority. So say this thread is having priority 1, this thread is having priority 4, and this thread is having priority 5. So here the point is the larger number indicates the lower priority. And one more point, all this priority you can assign to a thread by using a method get priority and set priority. Set priority method is used to set the priority of a particular thread, and get priority method is used to see the priority of a thread. But sometimes it may happen that you have many threads and you forget to assign priority to some thread. So at that point of time, the default value of the priority is 5. Now why 5? Because the priority value ranges between 1 to 10. 1 means highest one and 10 means lowest one. So whenever no priority is assigned to a thread, then it will take somewhat medium value, that is in between 1 to 10, that is the 5 value is selected. So this point you have to keep in mind whenever we are exploring preemptive scheduling. If priority is not set to a particular thread, the default value of the priority is 5, right? So in Java implementation that supports time slicing means we are on the Windows platform. And if I'm talking about priorities, it means we are talking about Solaris system. But try to understand, whenever I am working on time slicing environment, here the attention is concentrated over time. So at this point of time, at time slicing environment, priority of all the threads are considered to be same. So here you have to make a note, whenever we are exploring or executing thread code on Windows, it is using round robin scheduling. And this kind of scheduling works on particular time slice. So we are concentrating on time. So therefore, we are considering that all of the threads are having equal priority, right? So this is the concept you have to keep in mind. And after the completion of the time slice, even if the thread has not finished its execution due to its size, the processor is taken away from it because the time is over, since both are having the equal priority. So this is all about time slicing. And one more thing you have to keep in mind, in system that does not use time slicing scheduling, a thread will run to completion before another thread of equal priority would have an opportunity to run. So if you are running any Java thread code in such an environment where time slicing concept is not followed, then the thread will keep on executing until the equal priority thread gets the opportunity for its execution. However, a thread can use a method called yield method, YIELD, to give other thread chance for execution. Means why this yield method is used? See, I am not considering time slicing manner. So I am not fixing up any time slice. So this thread will continue its execution. So at certain point of time, a thread 3 is say coming. So as we know that all these threads, since they are working at time slicing environment, the priorities are same. So this thread can leave its execution by its own choice. At that point of time, this thread 2 will understand, okay, that I am executing for longer period of time and thread 3 has arrived. So if this method is invoked by this thread 2, so what happens, this thread is basically voluntarily releasing the CPU for the sake of thread 3's execution purpose. So this thing can also happen, right? So this is all about thread scheduling. So the concept of scheduling differs when Java platform differs. So since we are working on Windows machine, Windows environment. So I am focusing on time slicing environment in more details, right? So the concept of scheduling is clear. Why we have got this jumbled up output of this thread? Due to concurrent execution of two threads, new thread and main thread. Second, both the threads, they are working on time slice environment. Time slice environment means round robin scheduling. What is the time slice? It is decided by the operating system. Why round robin scheduling? Because we are working on Windows environment. And what do you mean by round robin scheduling? The CPU will switch from one thread to another thread depending on the time slice. Whenever a CPU is assigned to one thread, that thread is executing, other threads are waiting for the CPU. Immediately after completion of the time slice, the CPU will switch from one thread to another thread. So, due to this mechanism, this kind of output is coming. And why we have different kinds of output? Because the switching of CPU will not be fixed for all the time. So, for that reason, whenever we are executing the same code, we are getting repeated outputs of different patterns. But if I am executing this code in Solaris system, then time slicing will not be used. We will use imposing priority on the thread. So how to set priority on the thread? Using set priority method. So the priority can be assigned to thread from 1 to 10. 1 means highest priority, 10 means lowest priority. If we forget to assign priority, or default priority of a thread is 5, right? So on the basis of priority, the Solaris system will execute the threads. However, whenever we are working on Windows system, means we are working on time slicing manner. So then what about the priority of the threads? Here, priority of all the threads are equal and same. Since our focus is not priority, here primitive scheduling is not used. So therefore our focus is on time slice. So that's why all threads are considered to be of having same priority. So this is the conclusion up to this part.